What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of The 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best entertainment-related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. We've talked in the past about Borderlands and the continuation of this franchise moving forward from Borderlands 3. And in this segment of the show, guys, I want to talk about Borderlands 4 and kind of continue the conversations about the continuation of this franchise and why I think that there's a possibility Borderlands 4 may be in trouble. So let's get into it. In an article, guys, that was written by Nitish Singh of Gamers Suffice, we discuss Borderlands 4's release date, the story, and more. Borderlands 3 is one of the biggest releases that Gearbox has hoped for. It did excellent reviews, but also stirred controversy with Epic-only exclusive and launch bugs. Now, number one, guys, I would say that at launch, when there were a lot of bugs and such, that could be one of the things that kind of held this game back a little bit. But, you know, we'll get into kind of what more majorly kind of happened here that we may make Borderlands 4 be something that may not come out for a long time. The Borderlands series, if there is one game that revolutionized looter shooter in the last decade, we can single-handedly give the award to the Borderlands series. The Borderlands 1, 2, and the pre-sequel, all of them changed how we loved looter shooter games, and I'll 100% agree with this, guys. This revolutionized the looter shooter genre, and I don't really think there's much debate at this point about it. There were proper universe settings, millions of guns to play with, and enjoy the jokes of Claptrap and the NPCs that are scattered all over the world. Borderlands 2 came out 8 years ago, and it was not until last year's end we knew that Borderlands 3 was going to be coming out. And Borderlands 3, the development was going on for quite a long time, and so part of what I'm thinking, guys, is that because Borderlands 3 did go through, not necessarily a development hell, but it definitely went through a long process of coming out, I think that there's going to be more of that with Borderlands 4. However, its launch was plagued by problems. The first biggest problem that it went through, the Epic exclusive launch. It caused a lot of negative PR for it, but during launch it did pretty well as it posted higher sales than Borderlands 2 sales. Now, when you look at sales, guys, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, regardless of bad PR, regardless even if there was bad reception, you know, a lot of criticism, whatever the case might be, even if there's a lot of that, as long as the sales are good, you got a good shot at having a continuation of the series. So that would be a plus side to Borderlands 4 coming out, would be that Borderlands 3 sold pretty well. And so with that being said, you would think that, okay, that's at the end of the day going to kind of dictate everything, but there might be some other things underneath the surface. So Borderlands 3 also received mixed reactions from critics and users. Many complain that there is no evolution when it comes to jokes. Also, the story of Borderlands 3 is weak. Another thing that made Borderlands 3 not so enticing is the villains. They didn't have the charisma similar to Handsome Jack or other Borderlands universe villains. I agree with this overall, guys. I didn't think the Borderlands 3 story was that great. Not that it's having an identity crisis, but I just feel like it hasn't really... it doesn't feel like it's really going anywhere as far as like the story is concerned. You got like, obviously you've added, that being Gearbox, adding so many different types of guns and such, which is awesome. But I feel like they did that and almost replaced having tons of different, you know, customization, you know, methods and such in this game. To kind of making the story better or having the story go in a really good direction. So I think in one area it was like better in certain areas, but then in others, like the story overall, it really was weak overall. And as far as the villains, I agree with this as well. The villains weren't, you know, as enticing in my opinion. The graphics were great, guys. I loved how the graphics are. And this world overall, I mean, there's a lot out there, but it feels like some of the places that you would explore and such just didn't feel like there was much there at times. And so at the end of the day, guys, there was a lot of mixed reviews here, and so that may be something that Borderlands 4 may have a problem with, you know, because Borderlands 3 had that mixed reaction. Even though it sold well, there was a lot of anticipation there. With Borderlands 4, they're going to have to kind of almost reclaim a lot of those people who maybe left the Borderlands franchise after the third one came out. And they're going to have to kind of really get people, they're going to have to do something and, try to transcend in more ways in order to get those people back to Borderlands 4. So that's definitely a problem for Borderlands 4 moving forward, was really the mixed reaction. The sales of Borderlands 3, can't take anything away from that, did really well. But are you going to see those same types of sales coming into Borderlands 4, especially when you had a mixed reaction, of course, in Borderlands 3? It's hard to say. We'll have to kind of wait and see. But I think that Gearbox really has to start continuing to transcend this looter-shooter genre, in my opinion, if they want to, see people like coming back to it. If Borderlands 4 releases, when will it release? At this point in time, it is hard to say whether Borderlands 4 will release or not. There is no concrete information out there about the Borderlands 4 release. Even if it is released, it is no way near its release date. It can take anywhere between 5 to 8 years for the fourth iteration in the game to come out. I agree. I think that it'll probably take at least 4, maybe 5 years with the pandemic going on, guys. I think that it could take even longer than that for this game to finally come out, just because things have been delayed in pretty much every industry, whether you're talking the gaming industry, the movie industry, entertainment industry as a whole has been put on a brief hiatus. As far as speculations are concerned, guys, one thing for sure is that Borderlands 3, even after its disappointment, sold well. This means that there is still a player base for the game. Borderlands 4 can bring new changes to the game. This can be both graphical and gameplay-wise. Considering that Borderlands 3 has decent villains, Gearbox can work hard towards creating a villain that leaves a mark on the players. Another pretty clear thing is that the next iteration in Borderlands 4 will release on the next generation consoles, including Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. And the graphical upgrade is imminent, and as it will release on modern hardware. So what I'll say about that, guys, is that one thing that'll be good for Borderlands 4 that they can really take advantage of is, of course, the upgrading graphics moving into Xbox Series X as well as the PlayStation 5. But like I said, guys, the problem here, and the reason why I think Borderlands 4 is going to be in trouble long term here, Borderlands 3, okay, it had some problems, right? And some of them were pretty big issues overall for a lot of just diehard fans of the Borderlands franchise. And so when you talk about this Borderlands 4 not coming out for, let's just say 5 to 8 years, okay? Let's go based on this article here. By the time it actually gets, announced and all of those things, are people going to forgive Gearbox for a weaker game? Something that's not as good as, the first couple of games that came out in the franchise? I believe so, because with every franchise, guys, there's peaks and valleys. And even though it takes one game for a series to be bad, or to kind of go sour, it only takes one title to bring it right back to where it left off. So I think it's important that we kind of keep that into as we look at it. You don't want to paint with a broad brush. And I think that even though I believe Borderlands 4, it might be in trouble because of the criticisms, the reception, some people leaving the franchise completely because of, just the PR and the villains and the story and all those things. I think one thing that would really help Borderlands is if you have more, co-op modes, more multiplayer modes, things of that nature to really bring people back to the game after you're done with the campaign. That's my personal opinion. I think it would be really smart to do something like that, just so you consistently are bringing people back to the franchise. So I think in the 5 to 8 years it would take for us to get a Borderlands 4, I think that in the meantime, they continue updating Borderlands 3, make it as good of a game as they possibly can, and then, in another, number of years, really take your time with Borderlands 4, make sure it's going to hit everyone the right way, kind of continue to evolve the franchise. Don't go completely away from what has made this franchise great, but you're going to have to evolve in certain ways to grab more interest and build this fan base over time. So at the end of the day, guys, are we going to see a Borderlands 4? I think that there's a possibility that we will. I mean, because Borderlands 3 did so well, they're at least going to try Borderlands 4. I just hope that they don't completely ruin the franchise in a way where, it just ends up kind of, after Borderlands 4 doesn't do very good with sales and the reception once again isn't very good. Even if it is good, that doesn't mean it's going to sell extremely well because of the backlash from Borderlands 3. But let me know what you guys think. Are you guys hoping to see a Borderlands 4, and what do you guys think they could do, that being Gearbox, to kind of continue moving in a good direction for the Borderlands franchise and maybe get back on track from the misstep in certain areas in Borderlands 3? Let me know what you guys think, and for more Borderlands 4 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Bulletstorm was a game, guys, that had a lot of very unique types of gameplay and was a really interesting story at the same time. This is a game, guys, that was made by People Can Fly as well as Epic Games, and I think that this is a franchise where there's a lot of question marks as if this is a franchise that will continue. But I think to really talk about, if the series is going to continue, we have to look at the past here and kind of what happened to Bulletstorm to say whether or not there's going to be a continuation at some point or another. So let's get into it, guys. So, guys, Bulletstorm, this was a first-person shooter video game that came out in 2011, guys, on, of course, the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, and then, of course, it came out backwards compatible on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in 2017. Because this had a single-player as well as a multiplayer aspects, had a lot of, felt a lot like, kind of like Gears of War-esque, even though it was a first-person shooter, not third-person. It was a very interesting title, I will say that. And look, People Can Fly, these guys, as well as Epic Games, have had their, their turns in been able to work on Gears of War and some pretty big titles. But the big thing here is kind of what happened to this franchise, because it all of a sudden just went the way of the dinosaur. It kind of just disappeared off the face of the planet. They've kind of had a little remaster. They've remastered the game, and they've done certain things. Obviously, People Can Fly are still thinking about this franchise. But what happened here? As far as the reception is concerned, guys, Bulletstorm received positive reviews from critics. The game scored 9.1 out of 10 from Computer and Video Games, 8 out of 10 from IGN, 9 out of 10 from Eurogamer, 9.25 out of 10 from Game Informer, and 8 out of 10 from jukesvideo.fr. As far as the sales go, guys, Bulletstorm was a 7th selling title in February 2011 with over 285.6K copies sold. The game sold 1 million copies. Now look, at the end of the day, I mean, that's not bad. When you think about 1 million copies, it's a brand new IP. There could be something there. The reception's good. I mean, you're talking basically between 8 to 9 out of 10s is pretty good. As of July 25th, 2011, Epic Games declared that they had failed to turn a profit on the game. However, Sebastian, the CEO of People Can Fly, following their split from Epic, considered that the game sold well and was never going to be considered as successful or profitable as Epic's Gears of War series at the time. While the final sales numbers were disappointing to both EA and Epic Games, the game has garnered a cult following in the years after its release. The HD release of the game was considered far more successful in terms of sale. However, guys, a sequel was planned but was later canceled. So look, they had started making it, and at the end of the day, 1 million copies, you would think, man, that's a lot of copies. Here's the thing though, guys. Epic Games declared that they had failed to turn a profit on the game. So what that means, guys, is sometimes these games cost a lot of money. And look, Bulletstorm is one of those games that does look like, it was different. They had some new aspects to it, had a lot of different kinds of gameplay mechanics and such that were different at that time. And so obviously, it probably cost a lot of money to make, and they didn't seem to make a profit. Now, obviously, the CEO of People Can Fly is saying that it sold well, which it did, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it turned a profit. Now, in an article, guys, that was written by Eurogamer and by Robert Purchase, who's the senior staff writer over there, it sounds like People Can Fly would love to do Bulletstorm too. We loved the original Bulletstorm in 2011. We loved the full clip remaster in 2017. We'll probably also love the Switch version when it arrives. A date mentioned by Sebastian, CEO of developer People Can Fly, on the phone to me. But what about a potential Bulletstorm 2? That's what you really want to know. We are, as you can see, with the remaster and the Switch version, still holding this IP deep in our hearts. We want this IP to have its second life. We're still not sure what that means, but obviously since this is our IP, we own the IP, and the IP is known and has its fans, we would love to do something about it. There are no immediate plans to come back to this IP, taking into consideration our current effort on Outsiders or Outriders. But if we think about PCF in the longer run, then obviously it would be awesome to come back to this IP. We just need to think about how to make sure the audience will be bigger than Bulletstorm once, he added, and that's something we would need to work a bit more on going forward with this IP. So he says if he rushed to emphasize, we decide to ever come back to it. And look, guys, so here's the thing. I wouldn't hold your breath with Bulletstorm. If you're a massive Bulletstorm fan, I think your best bet is Outriders. This game looks really good, and I think this has a real opportunity here. I've made some videos, guys, in the past saying that Outriders is the game the Gears of War community actually needs at this point, and I think Outriders looks a lot like Gears of War. It kind of shows similarities, obviously, to Bulletstorm, but it looks really interesting. It takes a little bit from Destiny, a little bit from Bulletstorm, a little bit from Gears of War, and puts all those things together in something that could be really special. So I think if there's success with Outriders, I don't think they're going to go back to Bulletstorm. They're going to move completely forward without Outriders. But who knows? It sounds like this is something that's still in their hearts, still a game that they want people to, it probably always comes down, it comes down to the fans, guys. It comes down to what we want. If enough people want it, they'll probably end up making a second game. Now, People Can Fly is currently making Outriders for Square Enix and has no other projects in development. Outriders was unveiled in a teaser at E3, and we all know it's a three-person co-op shooter coming to PC, PS4, and Xbox One in the summer of this year. People Can Fly doesn't want to say anything more yet. What's surprising is how many people are making Outriders. Currently, there are 220 developers spread across 4 development sites, beavering away, 2 in Poland, 1 in the UK, and 1 in the US. If you factor in outsourced help, the number swells to 300 to 350. If I told you we were creating a AAA shooter with 30 people, you would be like, yeah, of course, right? He said, we are supporting the vision and ambition of the game. So how can People Can Fly afford it? The last time I looked in mid-2015, the studio was buying back Independence from Epic Games and employed around 30 people. To grow to 220 people in the meantime requires serious investment. Why would Square Enix invest so much for ownership of the IP? It's owned by Square Enix. We pitched the game, we pitched the idea, we pitched everything, but it was a different financial situation at the very beginning of our independence to today. So it was different negotiating power back then. So yeah, Square Enix owns the IP, which is interesting, guys, that Square Enix owns this IP, so you got to wonder, with that happening, what types of microtransaction models is Square Enix going to try to implement in Outriders? Is there going to be that? Are they going to have the creative freedom, that being People Can Fly, with this game? Because I gotta say, guys, after watching the announcement trailer for Outriders, it looks really special. So if you're a big Bulletstorm fan, look, at the end of the day, what happened here? Bulletstorm didn't sell as well as, as well as Epic Games was hoping it would. Then, of course, People Can Fly, they bought the IP back from Epic Games, and they've done things with it, right? They did a remaster. They, bring it out on the Switch. They're doing things with the IP, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough to garner a sequel, especially with Outriders coming back. I mean, People Can Fly, they're almost fighting for their lives here as far as trying to create more games out there, and I just don't think Bulletstorm 2 is one of those titles that anyone's going to jump on unless Outriders is completely knocked out of the park. And even if it is knocked out of the park, which would give People Can Fly a little more breathing room as far as their creative freedoms, I think that most likely Square Enix is going to want to greenlight an Outriders too. But let me know, guys, what do you guys think happened to Bulletstorm? Would you guys want to see a Bulletstorm 2 at some point or another in the future? Let me know what you guys think, and for more Bulletstorm content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. There is continued hype around Battlefield 6, guys, the upcoming title from EA, of course, and DICE, that people is kind of at this point almost feels pretty long awaited since Battlefield 5. And I think, guys, that we're probably going to be hearing a lot more in the coming months for this title. And what I gotta say, guys, about Battlefield 6 is I'm excited to see really any game that comes out, of course, in this franchise. I'm very interested and intrigued to see where they're planning on going with the franchise and such, and obviously get my hands on the game and play it for myself. Because Battlefield, even though there's a huge rivalry, it feels like, between Call of Duty and Battlefield, I love both games. I mean, Call of Duty, obviously, I like more than Battlefield, but I still love Battlefield for what it is, and I respect the heck out of the developers who are, creating these games, because I think that they've done something pretty special. But in this segment of the show, guys, I want to talk about the top 5 things that we want in Battlefield 6. And when I say we, I'm going to be talking mainly myself here, but I know some of you are going to share the same opinions, and if you don't share the same opinions, let me know what your top 5 things that you want to see in Battlefield 6 in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So guys, coming in at number 1, right off the bat, I want to talk about the campaign for Battlefield 6. I want there to be a full campaign for Battlefield 6. The war stories are awesome, guys, and I think the graphics are great, and the stories themselves, they're different. Each one is unique in their own way. From Battlefield 1 to Battlefield 5, we've had, between those couple of games, these war stories, and it's cool. I absolutely respect where the direction trying to go in, because maybe the war stories don't take as much time as a full-blown campaign. That way the developers can work on other aspects of the game, like the multiplayer and, co-op modes and Battle Royale at this point. But what I gotta say is that I really want to see a full campaign here, guys. No more war stories. Make it a full-blown campaign. Make us want to, really become these characters and really tell us a story. And I'll get into kind of the story that I would want them to tell, or where, kind of the time period here. But I just want a full campaign more so than war stories. At number 2, guys, I want a modern or futuristic Battlefield 6. So making it modern or slightly futuristic, I would probably prefer maybe a little bit more futuristic, not where there's jetpacks and things of that nature, but a little more futuristic as far as the weaponry is concerned, and kind of going back to like Battlefield 3, kind of back in that time, as far as just the modern to futuristic shooter, I think would be something that everyone in Battlefield wants at this point, because they've had back-to-back games that, one in World War I and then World War II in Battlefield 5, which is fine, but those two time periods, they've been used so much in video games, so much in movies. I think it's time to start moving into the future, or at least into the modern day with Battlefield 6. So I would love to see a full-blown campaign, like I said, as well as, of course, all the other modes that we'll get into here, but make it futuristic, or at least, modern. At number 3, guys, I would love to see, this gets us into the multiplayer aspect of the game, I want to see smaller maps. So I guess really overall, more variety here. I want there to be a variety as far as the sizes in the maps. Like generally speaking, Battlefield has had larger maps. I mean, it's just kind of typical for Battlefield to have larger maps, these massive battlefields, which is great, right? But I think having some smaller maps in the multiplayer realm, taking a book or a page out of Call of Duty's book, I think would do very well with this franchise. Maybe having some smaller maps that don't have any vehicles, and of course adding new game modes along the way is always smart as well. I think having the large scale maps, but then medium sized and even small maps where there's no vehicles, even if it's separate game modes, I think it's really important, because leading us into number 4 is an esports scene, guys. I think the best way for Battlefield 6 to add and implement esports into it, which I think is really important for the growth of the game, they need to have a dedicated esports, segment of this game. And so that being said, smaller maps without all the vehicles and things of that nature are really going to draw a lot of attention when it comes to the esports realm. Having something that's more similar to like Call of Duty-esque, and of course would have its Battlefield flavor to it, but having esports is going to help build this scene consistently. You're going to have a lot of competitive players playing this game. You're going to end up, building it from a streaming perspective and, content creation perspective. I think it's really important that Battlefield 6 has an esports scene, and I think that goes hand in hand with having like smaller maps. Maybe on some of those smaller maps, not having all of the different vehicles, or at least having a playlist that doesn't have the vehicles and it's a competitive playlist. That would be something I would love to see in, of course, Battlefield 6. And then coming in, guys, at number 5, I want to see a continuation of co-op modes. I would love to see war stories, but making that a co-op experience instead of a single-player experience. Like, you can play it as single-player, but it's meant to be a co-op experience. Having war stories, just kind of like side missions, similar to like with Call of Duty when they have Spec Ops and zombies and, you know, Extinction and things of that nature. I think having other ways you can connect with the franchise, having like co-op war stories, I think would be really, really awesome in my opinion. For Battlefield 6, more ways I can play with my friends. There's ways I can play by myself. And then, of course, there's ways I can connect in the franchise as a whole, playing against other people around the world. So, lastly, guys, what kind of goes hand in hand with the co-op is Battle Royale. Continuing Battle Royale, which Battlefield 5 with Firestorm, I think they did a really good job overall, but I think doing Battle Royale with a modern or futuristic title would be absolutely awesome. Think of Warzone for Call of Duty, man, it is absolutely exploded, and I would love to see that with Battlefield as well, having more of a modern to futuristic kind of feel to, you know, their Battle Royale, because really, Battlefield was meant to almost be like a Battle Royale because of the massive maps and all of the vehicles and things of that nature. So really, Call of Duty kind of took some things out of, you know, took some pages out of Battlefield's book. I think it's Battlefield's turn to take a few pages out of Call of Duty's book. At the end of the day, guys, I'm excited for Battlefield 6. These are my top things that I would like to see in Battlefield 6. What are yours? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Battlefield 6 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Another game that got announced at the Inside Xbox event showcase was The Medium, guys. This is a game that actually looks really intriguing, and I want to talk more about it and kind of go through everything that we know so far about this mysterious title. So let's get into it. Guys, in an article is more of a blog post from a user, Morgan Shaver. His Twitter is at author_M Shaver, from Turtle Beach, guys. The Medium was among several new indie games that were revealed during the Inside Xbox presentation. Developed by Bloober Team, the studio behind games like Layers of Fear, Observer, and 2019's Blair Witch spinoff, The Medium is a game that follows a medium who's able to traverse between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Number one, guys, one thing that really is kind of something that I think is really interesting about this is Blair Witch. I played Blair Witch. I never played Layers of Fear or Observer from Bloober Team, but Blair Witch was surprisingly good, guys. It was very unnerving at times, and I really liked the story that they were trying to tell in Blair Witch, and I love that universe as a whole just from the movies and such. So it was really cool, and that's why a huge reason why I'm excited about this game in particular. Now, everything that we know about this game, The Medium, was revealed in a trailer shown during the Inside Xbox presentation. The trailer opens with a pregnant woman as she's receiving an ultrasound. A male hand reaches out to hold her hand, but we're unable to see who that hand belongs to. This lighthearted scene quickly shifts to the woman looking troubled as she prays alone inside a darkened church. The church and the outdoor winter scenery shown in the trailer are renders of the Old Town Square in Krakow, Poland, and its famous church, St. Mary's Basilica. We know this not only because of the visuals, but because the game's producer, Jacek Ziba, confirmed the game's setting in an exclusive interview immediately following the Xbox presentation. The Medium is set in Krakow, Poland in the 1980s. It makes sense that the Bloober Team would want to set the game in Poland as they have a lot of familiarity with the area being based out of Krakow themselves. As the trailer progresses, we see a bit more of what the Medium's abilities are, like as the normal world around her gives way to a dusty, apocalyptic sort of environment. The ending of the trailer holds on this scene for a few good seconds and really reminded us of what hell looked like in the 2005 movie Constantine starring Keanu Reeves. It also kind of gives off a similar vibe to paintings from the famous Polish artist Bekzinski. While the trailer does a great job of capturing your interest, it doesn't tell you a whole lot about the story itself. Neither does the look at gameplay that was also shown during the Inside Xbox presentation and is included. So, Look, guys, here's the thing. The thing that really intrigues me about this is obviously the imagery that we've seen so far from the trailer and such. I love it when games give us a lot of mystery on top of like great visuals and such. And this is a game that, I mean, the main reason why I'm excited about it is because I enjoyed Blair Witch a lot. And so I'm excited to at least give this game a try and see what it's all about, because yes, it does kind of remind you a little bit about like Constantine, if you ever saw that movie. It's like some of the images is what, like, at least what some gamers may find interesting is that the medium will not only be available on Xbox One, Xbox Series X, but also PC, as it currently has a listing over on Steam. So what's interesting here, guys, is Xbox, as I've said in the past, is making an aggressive approach to have way more exclusives than any other console, that being Nintendo or PlayStation, and it's pretty clear to me. I mean, this is a game that's going to be coming out Xbox One, Xbox Series X, it's going to come out on PC, but if you're a PS4 player, you're not going to be able to play this game amongst all these other games that they were kind of showing everyone at this Inside Xbox event. And I gotta say, Xbox, they're making an aggressive approach here, guys, because PlayStation having more and more exclusives, you've got now Xbox doing the same thing. And so you're gonna have to kind of pick your poison or just buy all the consoles. Become a medium living in two different worlds, the real one and the spirit one. Haunted by the vision of a child's murder, you travel to an abandoned hotel resort, which many years ago became the stage of an unthinkable tragedy. There you begin your search for difficult answers. As a medium with access to both worlds, you have a wider perspective and you can see more clearly that there's no one simple truth to what others perceive. Nothing is what it seems. Everything has another side. So here's what I'll say, guys. They're kind of dealing with obviously the real world and then the spirit world, okay? Or the spirit one is what they're calling it. What I'll say is that in Blair Witch, they kind of had this, obviously in that story, they have you're kind of in the real one and you don't really know what's real and what's actually, not the real world, essentially, kind of like a dream world or the witch's world. And so I think that what's interesting about this is like the perfect kind of title for this Bloobers team to be actually, putting a game like this together, because they've already kind of worked in this kind of realm in Blair Witch. Yes, the medium boasts a soundtrack with composers of a Bloober team who worked on games like Layers of Fear Observer and Colette, as well as the legendary Akira Yamaoka, who composed music for the Silent Hill series. We definitely felt some strong Silent Hill vibes from the medium and find ourselves curious as to how much inspiration the game draws from the famous franchise. That's really exciting, guys. Silent Hill is also known for its psychological style of horror based on Bloober Team's history. We know they specialize in psychological horror, with Layers of Fear being the perfect example. From what we've seen, the medium seems to be following the psychological horror trend, especially with the tagline like, "You've only seen half so far." Will there be some unexpected twists and turns in the story? Is the dead child somehow connected to the unborn baby we see in the trailer? Is it the medium's child? As of right now, your guess is as good as ours, and we can't wait to find out as we get closer to the game's holiday 2020 release. So guys, we got like a holiday 2020 release, which is absolutely awesome. In the Xbox blog entry, the name of the game's main character is confirmed to be Marianne. No relation to the French horror series Marianne here, although we highly recommend checking that one out if you love horror. The medium is being touted as Bloober Team's largest and most ambitious project to date, which makes sense given the sheer amount of work that's clearly gone into the game. We did some digging into the game's art design for this feature and stumbled across an image of the same church shown in the medium's trailer from Bloober's art director, Mathieu Leonard. The image dates back 4 whole years ago. And that's pretty awesome, guys. From this, we can infer that the medium has been in development for quite some time, at least 4 years, with the team continuing to grind away at it even as they released other games like last year's Blair Witch. From the gameplay show, there are some similarities to the investigative aspect of Blair Witch, with the medium slow, careful walking through creepy areas while holding a flashlight in one hand in scenes featuring dark, overgrown forests. And look, guys, from a visual perspective, I've got to say, This looks great. I mean, most of the games, guys, that I saw from this Inside Xbox event look absolutely incredible. I can't wait to get my hand on some of these games, guys. A lot of, some of the other questions I've got, though, are all these games going to be coming out on Xbox, Xbox Game Pass, which would be really awesome as well, which, of course, is a subscription service, guys. Because these are Xbox exclusive, normally those would go directly on Xbox Game Pass. I'm hoping they do. But this is something really special, guys. I think that this is going to be a special title that you're just going to have to experience. Doesn't seem like it's going to have multiplayer experiences and things of that nature, but it seems like this team, they really do well when it comes to just a single player story and try to get you really talking about it after this story concludes. And that was definitely the case with Blair Witch. I obviously would wish there were more ways to connect with Blair Witch other than just the single player story, but I thought for what it was a pretty eerie, intense story, and I think that this one may be something kind of similar to that. But let me know, guys, what are you guys most excited about with the Medium? Are you guys interested in it? Are you not interested in it? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more The Medium content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.